Janitorial Manager presents the Business of Cleaning podcast, the podcast that brings you the information you need to be successful in the cleaning industry. The Business of Cleaning podcast provides in-depth interviews with successful personalities from the commercial cleaning industry, as well as discussing the trending topics that matter to you and your organization. Welcome into the Business of Cleaning podcast, your number one source for information on the commercial cleaning industry. We release new episodes monthly, live from the Janitorial Manager Studios located here in Toledo, Ohio. I'm Tim Clegg, the Marketing Communications Specialist here at Janitorial Manager and your host of the Business of Cleaning podcast. This month's episode, we are excited to welcome in owner Rob Anspach of Anspach Media, marketing consultant, author over 55 books, podcast host, and former carpet cleaning owner in the commercial cleaning industry. Rob, welcome to the show. We're very grateful to have you on this month's episode.
I'm glad to be here.
And we're going to dive right into it. Your journey in the industry started in the 90s. Before you were in media, in marketing, you owned a carpet cleaning business from 1995 to 2014. For you, it served kind of as a testing ground to develop effective marketing strategies. What piqued your interest in joining the world of cleaning and becoming an owner?
You know, when I started Premier Carpet Cleaners in 95, it was also the dissatisfaction of working for others. And, my wife's like, you sure you want to do this? You sure you want to be an entrepreneur? Because her dad was a self-employed carpenter for years, and she knew the ups and downs. And I said, yeah, I think I want to do this. So she gave me about a year. And, the year came and I'm still doing it. But by the third year, I was struggling because I was relying on other people to create my marketing. You know, the newspaper ads and the clipper type coupon mailers.
Mm-hmm.
And all the ads looked the same. You know, my ad looked like everybody else's, 2 rooms for X amount. And I was like, this isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be just like everybody else. And, I discovered an ad by Joe Polish. And so I went to one of his events in 1998, and that changed how I see marketing. And
what was that epiphany moment for you? What was the moment where you said, aha, this is going to change my perspective, not only as an owner, but as somebody who developed a key interest and now has a living through marketing?
Well, there was a lot of aha moments, but the one that struck me the most was the free room offer. And so I came back to Lancaster County after this seminar, and I started giving away free rooms of carpet cleaning. And my competitors were like, "What are you doing? You know, we can't do that. We can't compete on that level." And I would run ads, 1 free room of carpet cleaning up to 120 square feet. And I put stipulations. Couldn't be a rental. You had to be a homeowner. You had to, and I didn't want to work in the congested city. So you had to be outside the city. And just because I added those stipulations, that saved my butt because you eliminated all the time wasters, you eliminated all the tire kickers, and you eliminated the people that didn't have money. The problem is that my competitors tried to copy what I was doing, but they didn't put the stipulations down.
Found out the hard way real fast.
They were giving away a lot of free cleaning. And so they complained to at the time it was called the coupon clipper, that I was engaging in, marketing that was, anti-competitive and this and that. And I'm like, no.
I call it innovation.
Yeah. And so the Clipper magazine decided that it was either going to keep me on as an advertiser or kick me out, but I had to run ads that were similar to my competitors. No more 1 room free offers. And I'm like, that's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
So I created a direct to consumer mailer myself. I had postcards, I had handwritten letters, I had the whole gamut of marketing. And I would target the gated communities. I would target the the, the neighborhoods that I knew had money. And the funny thing happens is that when you're mailing pieces that are not in a competition with others. So what I mean by that is that if I'm in a Clipper magazine, well, there's five other carpet cleaners in there competing against me.
Hmm.
Same with the phone book. I'm so glad the phone books don't exist anymore.
Right.
But I would mail these pieces every month to the same people. And they would finally call me, hey, we want to give you a try. So we would get to the neighborhoods, we would do our due diligence and scan around, look at the neighborhoods that we're in.
Hmm.
Are they really what we want? And then we would hand out flyers. Some neighborhoods you couldn't do that. So we would just jot down, okay, yeah, we were at Mrs. Jones' house. Now we're going to target the neighbors in there. And that worked out very well because the neighborhood started to see our vehicles. They started to see
Hmm.
us. They started to trust us. They started to ask, hey, you just had Rob clean your carpet. How'd that turn out? And oh, yeah, he did such a great job. Here's a coupon for a free room as well.
Oh,
So now we have
nice.
all these
You
people
fit it back
handing out
in.
our
Yeah.
coupons. And so people are like, well, Rob, how do you make money giving away free? And here's the thing. When you're in someone's home, it's not just giving something for free, but you're doing a dog and pony show. You're making sure that not only are they happy with that one free room, you're not pressuring them into buy anything else, but you are planting the seed in their head, saying, look, if you'd like, while we're here,
Hmm.
can we get estimates? Can we give you an estimate on anything else? But I started going beyond that. What I started doing is pre-selling the upsell. That way, if my technicians go into home, I want them concentrated on the cleaning. Most of the technicians that go out today can't sell for crap, and I don't want them to.
Hmm.
So what I would do is I would send them an email or I send a postcard. Hey, we're going to be in your home. This is the day that we're going to be there. If there's anything else you would like my technician to look at, here's some extra coupons below. So there'd be sofa cleaning and tile cleaning, and so that one free room, they would like it so much they would have more stuff done.
Expanding that scope of work. Yeah.
Before we before we instituted the one free room, our average sale was about $75, which was horrible. After we started doing the free room and then pre-selling the upsell, our average sale was over $500.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's people want, nowadays you hear that expression, know, like, and trust. But back then, for me, I had to make sure my clients felt safe. So know, like, trust, and feel safe.
Mhm.
And most of and in the cleaning field, most of the customers are women. So they don't want, you know, guys they don't
Yeah.
know in their home when their husbands aren't there. So you really have to make sure that, you're trustworthy. Everything that you say that you're going to do, you do. You're not going to pressure them. And that's what helped my business, be successful for 19 years.
What did
And
you, as a person, appreciate the most during your time working and owning in the cleaning industry?
I think a lot of cleaners would say they appreciate good equipment or they appreciate, good team members. For me, it was always taking the time to appreciate the client and listening to their stories. The more I got to know these customers, I would know them. I would know their
Hmm.
kids. I would know their grandkids. So over a 19-year period, you know, you're building that community.
Yeah.
You're building that legacy. And back then I didn't know anything about legacy. I didn't appreciate the term. I was like, okay, I'm just here. I created this job, what I basically called it for a while because it was me hustling and grinding. And I'm like, shit, I could make more money flipping burgers at McDonald's. But it wasn't until that moment, that those concepts that I learned uh, when I went to Arizona to see Joe Polish.
And Rob, I'm glad you mentioned one of the key words that's important to everything that you do now is legacy. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. At this time, when did you start to realize you wanted to turn your attention towards a new venture, a new passion that kind of been burning inside you? That's marketing, media. Was there a specific moment for you that you remember the most when you kind of said, I'm interested in this?
Well, in 2001, I started Anspach Media, and I was running Anspach Media concurrently with Premier Carpet Cleaners. And right out of the gate, I got a client in South Carolina who needed help with marketing. So I designed their business plan, I designed their marketing, and they were going like gangbusters, and they were making money, and they were, my praise was everywhere. I mean, Rob's doing this is great. And I flew back and forth to South Carolina a couple times. And I thought, this is great. I really like doing this. And then 9/11 hit. 9/11 scared the crap out of people. And my client down in South Carolina said, you know what? We don't want to do this. We're afraid. And they shut their business down. And they went to
Wow.
and they got real jobs.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, oh crap, I had a lot of things lined up.
Yeah.
But you know, 9/11 put a damper on a lot of things.
Hmm.
And I was, the carpet cleaning was still in demand. And I thought, I'm going to shutter the consulting down for a little bit and just focus my attention over here with the cleaning. And I would still take consulting jobs every now and then. Carpet cleaners would say, "Hey, Rob, I need help. Can you help us with our marketing? Can you help us do what you did?" And I would pick up, clients here and there, but it was nothing to write home about. Um, Fast forward to 2012, and I was in Philadelphia at a entrepreneurs business network, and I actually won an award for a marketing piece that I had sent out, a what we call a regeneration piece, where you bring back people that haven't done business with you for a while. And what I did is I sent them all a handwritten letter. I didn't write it; it was the computer
Hmm.
computer font, but it looked like a handwritten letter, and it was 4 pages long. And it was just basically direct response copy that got them to give us a call. And so I went after people that hadn't called us in 2 years, and they had spent over, a couple $100. And so I sent this letter out. Um, I sent it to 200 people.
Wow.
And out of those 200 people, almost half of them contacted us to schedule service, which
Wow.
blew my
That's
mind
excellent. Yeah.
because the average is, less than 10%.
Right.
And so, I presented this letter and I presented the outcomes at this meeting and won an award. And one of the prizes was a ticket to Scottsdale, Arizona, to go to this Infusionsoft meeting or this conference. And I wasn't a big fan of Infusionsoft, but I went anyway. On the way back home, I came up with the idea to write a book on social media, but I wanted to keep it simple. So my very first book was called Share because you're always sharing your ideas out. And it was
Yeah.
27 ways to boost your social media experience. And I just made the book very easy to read, easy to understand, but I didn't have a publisher. And so I shopped it around, and all these big publishers wanted something technical, they wanted something huge, and my philosophy is always keep it simple.
Absolutely.
So, after getting all these rejections, I thought, why can't I just do this myself? So I started my own publishing company, and the book sold 2,000 copies right away. And I was like,
Wow.
wow.
Right.
And so, my next book was going to be all about SEO. And this was 2014 when SEO was just, starting to be bigger.
Yes.
And I reached out to a buddy of mine up in Canada, in Winnipeg, and he was a former carpet cleaner as well. And I knew he was tinkering in SEO. And I said, Paul, I said, these are my ideas for a book. He said, well, I want to write a book too. And I said, well, why not co-author a book?
Yeah. Two heads are
We
better than
can we
one.
can put our both our ideas in
Yeah.
here. And so we fast tracked the book from concept to creation to number one bestseller in 4 countries. Took 60
Wow.
days.
Whew. Holy smokes.
And that book put us on the map. And everybody and their moms were like, "Hey, help us with our website, help us with our SEO, help us with our social." And so I thought, huh, this is what we need to do. And I sold the carpet cleaning business. And sadly, the guy who bought my cleaning business bankrupted in 6 months
Oh my
because
goodness.
he didn't keep my pricing. He didn't do the marketing that I was doing for all those years.
Hmm.
And he would go there and just upsell like crazy. So he was doing the opposite of what I trained my customers to expect. And years later, I'd still have people call me, "Hey, Rob, can you clean my carpet? Because the other guy was awful." you know, I couldn't. And a
Right.
couple of years ago, I was coaching a cleaning business, and I was on location, and I'm like, "Yeah, let me see how I can do this," because I hadn't cleaned carpet in years, and I couldn't do it. My muscles that used to do the
Yeah.
scrubbing all day long, I was exhausted after 5 minutes. I'm like, maybe I made myself soft.
I was listening to one of your e-hero podcasts with Jeff Cross at
Hmm.
ISSA media director over there. And one thing that stuck out in the first 15, 20 minutes of that interview, you mentioned the simple word adapt. Learning how to adapt your personality for different clients is something you realized you had to learn how to do.
Yeah.
Some people have a very difficult time doing that. How were you able to adapt your personality to each individual client to meet their needs?
You know, I'm very sarcastic. So the people that are listening that know me, I'm sarcastic. And I have a series of Rob Versus books that are all sarcastic. However, when you're going into someone's home for the first time, introducing them to a sarcastic person doesn't always bode well. And so, a lot of times when you go into someone's, house, based on what they drive, is a key indication of their personality. So if you go there and they have two Beamers in the driveway and their yard is pristine, they're very serious people.
Yes.
And so you have to be able to drop your sarcasm until you go in there and introduce yourself. And once they get to know you, then you can introduce your personality a little bit better. But, you know, everybody is different
Mhm.
and everybody has their quirks. And so when I used to go in, the first thing I would do is put booties on. And it showed that I cared.
Right.
That I'm walking into someone's, and it didn't matter if they had a $1 million home or a $75,000 home. I mean, I usually didn't get those types of small homes, but when I did, I treated them the same as I did if they were a millionaire.
Hmm.
You know,
Respect goes a long way.
I would put towels down, just to guard their floors. I would put corner guards and yard stakes. And
Hmm.
again, we're going back to the dog and pony show.
Hmm.
It shows that you're taking the time to care. And so I know a lot of cleaners who would not do all that thing, all those things. and their prices were low. And people were like, well, Rob, you did all these extra things that nobody else did. Now I understand why your prices are a little higher,
Hmm.
but I would rather pay you because you took care of my property, because you cared enough to do all this firsthand. Because here's the thing is that when you care enough to protect their yard or their floor coverings or their corners of their walls, that perception goes to your ability to clean.
Hmm.
So even if you couldn't get the sofa 100% clean because you did all these other things, the client thinks that you're the best. If you just rush in
Hmm.
there and say, well, I'm going to splash and dash,
Right.
and you're in there for 20 minutes and the client's like, what did he
What
just
did you
do?
do?
Yeah. So, taking the time to build value, regardless if you're going to make money. And I would do all those things just to do a free room. So sometimes if that's all they wanted, that's all they got was that free room. And we would spend, maybe an hour setting up to do a free room. That's okay. We
Hmm.
would thank the customer, maybe give them a free bottle spotter, but they would call us back.
Planting the seed.
And they would refer us to other people just like them. And it was for me, it was always about the long game, and even in what I do now, it's the long game. I have clients that have seen my posts for years and finally interact. Carpet cleaning. Sometimes you have to give something away for free in order to build that credibility. They want to know who you are, what you do, and how they're going to feel safe around you. And those are the things that will outshine any equipment that you have. And
Hmm.
here's the thing is that I owned a Bang Clean system, not a very glorious cleaning machine in the realm of big trucks. These guys would spend these what $1,000 a
Yeah.
month, mortgage payments on their big truck. And I was out there, out selling, out maneuvering, out adapting, out cleaning these guys all day long. And I had, you know, this small system. But the thing is I could go into someone's home with a bucket of water and a scrub brush and probably still do a better job, not in cleaning,
Yeah.
but in marketing.
Hmm.
And you know, people don't care what equipment you have. They care about the results.
We're talking with Rob Anspach, owner of Anspach Media. Email marketing is a huge tool, whether you're using a platform such as Constant Contact or sending things out through your email provider. How can cleaning companies maximize their email marketing efforts to increase client engagement, retention, and as well as attracting those new customers?
Email used to be that thing that everybody checked every single day. Unfortunately, most people use Gmail or Hotmail or all these other ones that are controlled by big companies,
Yes.
and a lot of it goes to junk. And one of the things that I used to do, and this is back when email was, I mean, I've had email for a long, long time, but when I started using it in the business, I think it was in 1997. I would send out an email, probably an email blast once a week to my client base, but I would always follow it up with a postcard. And people are like, dude, that's too expensive. Really? Here's the thing. Not everybody checks their email. And I love email. I love the simplicity of it. I love to be able to just on the fly with my phone. People aren't always expecting an email, or it goes to junk.
Yeah.
You send them a postcard and say, look, thank you for subscribing to our email list. Please, highlight or mark our address so that it doesn't go into a spam filter. So now they're getting a postcard in the mail saying what to do, how to do it. They're giving them instructions.
Yeah.
So now they're more what's the word I want to use? They're more conditioned, okay, to check their email now. If you're going to tell them when you're going to send the email out, when to expect it, and to not block the email from being sent to junk, now they're gonna look at it. But for cleaners, people want to see evidence. They want to see pictures of your work. They want to see excuse me, they want to see testimonials.
Mhm.
You don't have to give them a whole list of, you know, all these ways that you can improve their environment. You know,
Right.
you always see these long letters, and I've explained I sent these regeneration letters out, reactivation letters.
Hmm.
Here's the thing: keep your email simple, keep your emails short. You know, just say, look, we have an opening this week for one or two people. Get on the books. This is the date that we have open. Keep it simple, and people will respond.
Yeah.
People will take you up on that. And one of the things that I tried to never do, and this is going to sound probably maybe obnoxious to some people, arrogant to another, but I never book people the same week. And people and cleaners were, why? You know, why don't you book the same? What if we need the money? Exactly. You don't want to be perceived as a
Desperate.
company that's desperate.
Yes.
So I would always say, okay, we're booking for the following week. And then I would, and see, when you do this, it's psychological because one, it gives you time to send them information. So if they are booking a week out, it gives you time to send them a postcard to pre-sell the upsell, send them an email, tell them what you need them to do. No, you book the same. I've had cleaners say, "Oh yeah, they called me this morning. I'm there this afternoon," and then you walk into a mess. You
Yeah.
walk
Not
into a
knowing.
house that needs 16 guys to move furniture. It's like, no.
And of course, one of the things now that we continue to see, it's an ever-changing game. Um, the regulations within what you can send. What are some of the best practices to comply that with email regulations being updated and changing every so often?
Well, the with email, you know, for if someone says unsubscribe me, you better unsubscribe them.
Hmm.
If someone was on your list prior and then they got off your list and they went back on, they need to double opt in. Um, you know, it's not rocket science, but you do need to take a few extra steps. You know, I use Constant Contact, and I know, you know, that is an old email provider, and there's probably other ones out there that are equally as good or better. You know, like I said, I keep things simple, and
Hmm.
Constant Contact for me is simple. Infusionsoft was horrible, and I think that's why it got the name Confusionsoft.
Right.
You know, over time it changed to Keep. But there's Active Campaign. There's you know other programs out there that will track the whole client journey, and
Hmm.
that's important to some people. For me, I'm not. Um, I don't get hung up on the numbers. I don't get hung up on the analytics because they can give you. To me, it's called fuzzy logic. It makes you feel great because you
Yep.
know you're this might be performing this way, but is it actually making you money? And
100%.
and same with email programs. They'll say, well, this client clicked on the link, or this client opened, you know, the email, and it'll display your open responses, and it'll display your click-throughs. And again, fuzzy logic. You know, the only thing that you can count on is the sale. And there
Yes.
are
The
a
conversions.
lot of emails will show a preview where a client will just get the information. Maybe they'll see your offer and they'll call you right away. But your system will say they never opened it, they never clicked it. Same with social media.
Mhm.
There are lurkers. There are people who will never click, will never comment, will never like, but they will become your client. And you'll be like, yeah, but
Right. The
how?
numbers said this.
Yeah.
Um, I had a question from a prior guest, a long-term, 20-year business owner, and he kind of was putting on his hat from a new owner perspective, and he kind of came up with this question. If you're starting out as a new cleaning business owner today, what's the best way, Rob, that you would recommend to capture those emails?
One of the best ways, and it takes a little time, is when you're in a client's home, ask for it. And people say, well, Rob, you're already in the home. You should already have their email. Not necessarily.
Mhm.
People don't want to subscribe anymore. You could have subscribe here in big bold letters,
Right.
and you're going to win a car, and you're going to do all this. And people don't want to subscribe. They're I get 1,000 emails almost every day. Most of it's junk. And yeah, people want me to read their stuff. They really do. And if I sat down and read all the emails that I get every single day, I would never get anything done. I'm glad there's a delete button.
Yes.
However, when you're in business, you want people to read your stuff. And by asking them point blank when you're in their home, hey, look, I have this beautiful newsletter, goes out once a week, a month. You can set the terms. Would you like to get information on? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. And you get your email there. Um, when they already have a taste of what you're offering, your beautiful carpet cleaning
Mhm.
service, that's the time to ask them, not only for an email, but ask them for referrals. You're already in the home, you're already
Yeah.
developed a rapport, you've already proven to them that you can do the work. Why not ask for the email and the referrals then? And you're going to get more people saying, yeah, I want you back. Here's my email. Here's my phone number. So
Yeah.
text me.
Which leads to SMS, text messages. Owners in the cleaning industry, too. You mentioned SEO. That's one of your areas of expertise and specialty. People are starting in the industry to see the great opportunities with SEO, with things such as obviously the keywords and can play in searches, helping increase their visibility. Um, what are some of the best practices in SEO cleaning companies should be focusing on to get that higher rank? And they have to understand, we mentioned the word the long game. This sometimes can be a short-term gain. Sometimes you got to be in it for the long haul.
Right. And if you're using WordPress, there are plugins. Some of them are Yoast, some of them are all-in-one SEO. I recommend using them, but not just putting the plugin on your website because just a plugin alone is just a tool. And without your knowledge of how that tool works, it's useless. So when you're incorporating plugins to your website, make sure that you're filling out the proper information. So if you have a cleaning company, let's say in Ohio, you're going to be able to there's things called meta information. So you got meta titles, meta descriptions, meta keywords. The key is, and this is where a lot of people go wrong. They stuff the same three keywords in the meta title, meta keywords, meta description. The meta title and the meta description work in unison, so you don't need to repeat keywords, you know? So you could say, that and stop using the word the best because
Right.
and don't use home because that makes you look when Google's searching all these places that say home, makes it look like you're a real estate company. Get that out of there. Yes, it is your home page, but it doesn't need to be in your meta description or title. So, Ohio carpet cleaning and upholstery cleaner. Keep it simple, keep it basic. In your description, give people more information about what it is that you do. You could put your name down, you could put your phone number in there, but realize that when you're adding more things, now you're ranking for more words.
Mm-hmm.
If you're only using, you know, carpet cleaner, carpet cleaning, it's the same. Okay. And you know, I've seen this so many times that the first thing I do is just go in there and change all the keywords, and now all of a sudden they're ranking. And and you get these emails where you get these calls, from some foreign land. We'll rank you for your three best keywords. And all the sites that I'm working on are ranking for 100 keywords now because, I've learned to, you know, uh, make things work in unison. And so you have these pages at home, service. And here's the thing. Don't just have a service page that lists all your services. Create a page for everything that you do.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do carpet cleaning, that's a separate page. Upholstery cleaning, separate page. Tile cleaning, separate page. And then those get optimized. So one of the things that I like to do is put a form on every single page. The reason I do that is that if your page is optimized correctly, somebody might be searching tile cleaning and your main page may not show up, but it'll land on that tile
Yeah.
cleaning. And so if there is a form that you can fill out your name, address, phone number right to that page, now you've captured your client. And so you keep it simple, but every single service needs to have a form where people can fill out or a phone number somewhere. I've seen so many service websites where there's no phone number and it just requires you to fill out a form.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, people will fill out a form, but you really want them to call you, and that's, I think we forget about that. We forget, oh, we have all this technology, where we can put people in funnels and do this and do that. Most people just want to call. They want a human to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, AI can help, but the moment people realize it's not real, a lot of times they don't want to leave a message.
You've lost them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, I know that there's a lot of single owner operators out there that are doing everything, multiple hat wearers, cleaning the carpets and you're out 12 hours a day. And you want a system that simplifies everything. Take the time to answer your phone.
You mentioned your first SEO book coming out in 2014. How have you seen SEO evolving over the past few years? And as it continues to evolve, what should these commercial cleaning owners and business owners be focusing on right now?
Well, the AI is really coming on strong. And,
Mhm.
where we used to optimize for Google, change to optimize your website for human. But now, things are changing and things need to be optimized for AI search. When I was back in October, I was in France for 2 weeks. And in between airports, a gal had come up to me because I was in line to get a Dunkin' Donut coffee. And she's using her phone. She asked me a question about some donut. She wasn't using Google. She was using ChatGPT
Mm-hmm.
to find, the best donut that she was going to choose from. And so in Europe, a lot of people have already switched out of Google into, AI search. So in our quest to dominate our websites, we have to take into account not only old SEO practices like the meta tags, but we have to incorporate that all the content that we have on our page is written for a human first and foremost. So if you have a blog post and it sounds very machine written, very stale, very bland, take your AI if you are using one and say, look, I want this written in, my personality, and I want it to say this, this, and this. And the AI will kick out a blog post that resonates
Yeah.
like you would. And if you have a trouble with that, record something on video. Have the AI train it off your video. Now it sounds like you. And people are like, well, Rob, isn't that cheating? No, again, AI is a tool.
We
You're
mentioned keeping
utilizing a
things
tool.
simple, right?
Right. It's people used to say, well, Rob, you have that Rotovac. Isn't that cheating? It's a tool. It helps me clean faster.
Right.
AI is a tool. It's going to help you market
Mhm.
faster or market even more correctly. So, but blogging on your website is essential because one, it tells Google that your site is being maintained.
Mhm.
Plus, if you take 50 of your most frequently asked questions and turn them into blog posts and incorporate your town or your area that you service, every time someone searches for that question, your blog post is coming up or a video that you made, you know, and then it can direct them to your YouTube where you're showing them, more stuff that you've done. There's a lot of things that cleaners should be doing, but they're not because it takes time.
Mhm.
And like I said, you might be an owner operator working 12 hours, you come back, you're exhausted. The last thing you want to do is marketing.
And the evolution in the improvement in the AI game is incredible. I mean, the changes and updates that we've seen to ChatGPT in a very short time, it's been revolutionary and it continues to adapt. Um, how do you see it evolving in marketing, the long haul? I won't even say long haul because 5 years really isn't that long, but
No.
how do you see it evolving in marketing in the cleaning industry as a whole over the next 5 years?
Well, a lot of AI now can do video, and all you have to do is plug in your parameters, and it kicks out video. Is it always accurate? No,
No.
it will be. And you can take some of your short, cleaning clips. You clean someone's, carpet, their couch, feed it into an AI, and it's going to spit out, a blog post. It's gonna spit out, maybe a commercialized looking video that looks entertaining and it makes you look like the hero. AI right now is making people look like heroes, and 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 maybe that's not for everyone, and maybe you're scared of AI, but like I said, it's just a tool.
Mhm.
It's not the Terminator yet. I don't think it ever will be, but it
Right.
is making people adapt faster. How can I use this technology to better my business? And I think people are just scared. They're like, well, I don't want to use it. I think everything needs to be humanized. Well, you can make AI humanized.
Yeah.
And so I have several different models trained not only to spit out sarcasm like me, but also uh, I have a few models for my clients because they're kicking out videos all the time. So I have it trained on them. So I'll say, hey, write a blog post in, Mr. Jones' voice and tone and teach it, have it teach about this. And it'll spit out, 500 to 1,000 word blog post. Done. Then I have to take it, insert it, optimize it so that the keywords are right.
Yeah.
But the thing is, AI can do all that too, if you ask it to. The thing is that, and I've had people say, well, Rob, I tried ChatGPT, I tried Grok, I tried Manus. Okay, and did you train it to do anything?
Right.
No, I asked it a question and it just just was totally oddball and I didn't want to continue. No, you have to put some time into it and teach it. And I think that's what people don't realize is that the AI is trainable and it's going to be more trainable the more you give it. And I think people are afraid. But here's the thing is that AI has been around for a long, long time.
Yes, it has.
Our GPSs are powered by AI. You give it, you say, what's the fastest route between here and my client's house? And it's going to tell you. But a lot of people don't realize that the things that we're doing now, AI has been around for a long time, and you're just seeing it from a new perspective.
In the cleaning industry, too, a lot of owners, the average age around 55 of owners that are in the industry. It's an industry that's a little bit slower to adapt to things. And I think that's starting to change. Obviously, younger owners coming in, a lot of the trade shows now are integrating, having sessions on AI. How how do you persuade them? I mean, you mentioned their fears, but my goodness, I think this is something that if people in the industry don't adapt because of all the possibilities AI
Right.
has for you, you could get left behind with the times.
Well, I think my generation, and I'll be 56 this year, and so I haven't been in the cleaning industry since 2014, so 11 years. However, we are the last generation that knew the internet before the internet. New technology, we ran businesses before technology was adapted into it. And so we have a different perspective. If it comes down to it, we still know how to use a pen.
Right.
We still know how to pick up the phone and call people. The younger generation, I think, has this is the digital phone generation. They were
Yeah.
brought in um, and raised on iPhones and Samsungs and they don't know what it's like to run a business without technology. So, for them, that's all they know. For us, it's a different thing. And so sometimes I have to even take time to realize that if technology went away, what would I do? How would I adapt? How would I cope? The problem is that these kids today, they don't know how.
It's true. So dependent.
And so, we've even in the cleaning industry, we've made things easier. That the equipment is lighter now. The what I call the bazooka, the cleaning wand that I used to use was so heavy, and nowadays it's like I just pick it up with my. It's like, but
Yeah.
it's still tiring. You're still using different muscles, and maybe in a few years we won't even have to go into a person's home. We'll just set a machine in, kind of like a Rumba, and it'll go around, clean everything, and we just have to come in back and pick it up.
Right. We're seeing it. I mean, I was at the Sam's Club the other day with my wife and daughter. They already have, and they've had it for a few years, the autonomous robots
Mhm.
just plug in the coordinates and can detect Tim standing in the way of brisket in the deli looking at meat, and it will just swerve on around me, reroute itself. And those things have been revolutionary in the industry already. I want
Mhm.
to switch gears just for a second. I don't want to spend a lot of time on social media because that's one that a lot of companies are starting to realize. But I do have one social media question. Sometimes uh, we get a little tunnel vision. How can businesses uh, determine the return on investment of their social media and their marketing efforts? Hey, well, we're putting a lot of time in our social media. What are we getting out of it?
And that's a great question because it used to be the ROI was measurable on social media.
Hmm.
The problem is that we forget that the word social means social. We've got to be friendly.
Yeah.
It's not about always marketing. So what I always tell people is, look, If you're doing social media, mix it up. Theme out your days. So, Sunday could be weekend wisdom, where you're just sharing a quote, nothing about cleaning. Monday could be motivation Monday, could, again, nothing about cleaning. Tuesday could be testimonials. Wednesday could be a video. Thursday could be a blog post. Friday could be frequently asked questions.
Hmm.
That way, none of your social looks the same day after day after day. What I see is a lot of people post a picture with a link with about 70 hashtags, and they do that day after day after day after day. And the system, Facebook says, well, it all looks the same to us.
Yeah.
And after a while, your clients are going to say, oh, yeah, it all looks the same to us too. A picture, a link, a bunch of hashtags. It just,
Repeat. Yeah.
yeah, it's and so people stop coming to your page. They stop looking at it. And so when you mix it up, you theme out your days, you make everything different. And a lot of people say, well, Rob, it's too much work. Really, it's not, because you
Right.
got you got 4 Sundays, you got 4 Mondays, you you know what's going to be posted that day, you know. And it makes it easier not only to schedule stuff, but you know that, okay, Monday I don't have to feel pressure. I just put some type of motivated quote up there. And the thing is, people love quotes.
Yes, they do.
They love motivation, and it has nothing to do with cleaning. And they respond, or they'll call. I one day I posted. I remember this was when I still had my cleaning business. I posted something about a movie, Big China, or Big Little. It was with Kurt Russell,
Little
Big
trouble
Trouble in Little Fry,
yes.
and
Yep.
and it's a classic cult movie. I love it. I would share out these quotes. And somebody contacted me and they're like, Rob, that's my favorite movie. Come clean for me. You never know
Yeah.
what somebody is going to resonate on. And so mixing it up and not posting cleaning stuff every single day
Mhm.
gets somebody to react, or it uplifts them in a way that maybe they were having a bad day. Now they're seeing something that's motivation. They're going to pick up the phone.
You mentioned something too that has kind of been shifting, right? Everybody in the, it seems like forever has been so focused on hashtags. Well, with the changes and the ever changing algorithm that we all try and find out what exactly is the key to success in that, hashtags are becoming less and less of a thing. So, what would you tell somebody as you mentioned, hey, I'm going to throw 10, 12 hashtags up here and hope it sticks up against the wall?
Yeah, hashtags used to be, and I see something still with lots of hashtags, and I'm like, I don't even want to look at it. It's just clutter to me.
You're right. Yeah.
And so I might just use one. Most times I don't use any. Um, the nice thing about hashtags is that, especially in Facebook and Twitter, or X as it's called now, is that you can search those hashtags. There's a search bar.
Hmm.
Put that hashtag up in the corner and see who else is using it. And if your competitors are using it, now you know how to, you know, look at what they're doing. Now, I'm not saying, copy your competitors. Just glance at what they're doing every now and then.
Hmm.
Don't copy their pricing. Don't get too wild about what they're doing. I think too many people get too concerned about what their competitors are doing and then lose sight on what they're supposed to be doing.
That's a great point.
And don't worry about what they're charging. You create your own value. You create your own experience with your customers. And I used to, we used to call all these other competitors, early on, and find out what they're charging. And then caller ID came out. I'm like, I can't do that. They know who I am.
Right.
But, we would do that. Oh, you're charging 25 cents a square? Okay, I'll charge 24. And you'd think people would care. Oh, I'm going to get all this business because I'm cheaper.
Cheaper than my
And
competitor.
and the thing is, when I started out, my slogan was, "We clean your carpet, not your wallet." And I wanted everybody to realize that I was the cheaper alternative. And It was cute at first, till I realized that I wasn't being able to pay my bills. I couldn't take a vacation. My equipment wasn't being maintained because I wasn't making enough money. And so, once I realized that I need to raise my prices, I raised them a lot. Probably doubled within that first month. And I started going after better types of clients, ones that appreciated spending more money
Mhm.
on better service. And so there's a correlation. If you're going to deliver the best service possible, then charge the best prices possible. I when I sold my cleaning business, my prices were 30% higher than my highest competitor. And I had clients that were willing to pay. And so, you know, just just the other day, I got a call from a cleaner in San Francisco, above San Francisco area. San Francisco is a very expensive town.
Very.
And when I asked him what he was charging per square foot, I almost fell out of my chair because his prices were what my prices were 20 some years ago.
Wow.
And he says, I
Especially
can't
in
com
that area too.
he says, I can't compete because a lot of the Mexicans are coming up from and taking our business. I said, don't blame it on anybody. Blame it on yourself. You have to develop value. You have to develop experience. You have to showcase why people need to hire you versus them.
Yeah.
And it's has nothing to do with cheap labor. Yeah, I'm sure they're doing a great job. But
You mentioned loving quotes. So I'm going to throw one in here. For me, it's I look in the mirror. It's you versus you. That's your competition.
Mhm.
Is, we think I can't do it. Well, you can because you did it 30 years ago
Right.
and we're thriving on it. So being able to take a
Well,
risk and have it
on the
pay
other
off.
side of my monitor that stares at me every single day, there's a little piece of paper that says some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. And I read that every single day because not everybody's my client. I know a lot of cleaners out there that will accept anybody that breathes. It's not the right attitude.
Right.
I would rather sit on my couch and watch cartoons all day instead of going out and busting my ass for $100. It's not worth it. But once you get that client that calls you and says, Rob, I have $1,000 and I'm out the door and it takes me 3 hours, you know, and I just realized I made $333 an hour. And it was funny because I was at a lawyer's house one day cleaning their carpet and I charged them a lot of money. And the guy looks at me and goes, you were only here 6 hours. That equates to 300 and some dollars an hour. That's more than I charge. I said, raise your prices. I don't think he was too happy about that. And I look back now and I don't even know if that lawyer's still in business. I don't see his marketing anywhere. Maybe he retired, but he was young, so he should still be out
You're very passionate about legacy. We just mentioned that very early on at the top of the interview. Not all entrepreneurs plan for the future. Why is legacy so important to you personally?
there. I didn't plan for it early on either. And legacy didn't really hit me until a few years ago. And I realized that everything that I was doing for my clients, helping them with their books, helping them with their marketing, helping them structure their business in a way that would outlive them. That's legacy. And I thought, huh, that's important.
Yeah.
And I when I came back from France, I wrote the book Legacy because I wanted people to realize that it goes beyond you. What you do, whether you're in a cleaning business, whether you're in a marketing business, it goes beyond you. It's and it doesn't have to do with the next generation. Although I would love for my kids, my grandkids to know who I was, and this is why I write books. Um, but I want the community to understand what I contributed. You know, and I know that there's a lot of people out there who build businesses just for them. That I don't want to help the community. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do that. And when their business goes under or they sell, nobody remembers who they are. Somebody asked me the other day, well, don't you want your name on a building or a library? What does the name on the building or a library? I got my name on hundreds of books. No,
Right.
55 right now.
Yeah. And
Um,
counting.
but it's I enjoy, writing. For me, it's my expression of what I want the next entrepreneur to do. It's my lessons for them. Are they going to listen? I hope so. Um, but the thing is that a lot of the things that I've experienced as an entrepreneur, somebody else is going to experience too. And my books give them a way to overcome, to adapt,
Yeah.
to figure it out. But legacy is, as I got older, I'm like, okay, why have I done all these things that I've done? What is it that I'm going to leave behind? And I think a lot of times people think, well, legacy is money. Well, money's good to a point,
Hmm.
but here's the thing about leaving people money. If they don't know how to manage that money, they're going to blow it within the first generation or the next generation. They say that within 3 generations, if I go from shirtless to millionaire, the next generations are going to spend that money and they'll be shirtless too. So you go from poor to rich back to poor because they don't know how to manage it. So, but with knowledge, books, podcasts, articles in magazines, things that people can read, can learn from, that's everlasting knowledge.
Why
And
do you
that's
believe not
that's
enough
legacy.
people plan ahead for their legacy?
No, they
What have you
don't.
found
No.
out?
Very few do. And those that have waited a long time, and you look at Steve Jobs, he died at 56.
Hmm.
He created, a brilliant company. But what people don't realize is that midway through his career at Apple, he was ousted, and he could have gone out and cried about it and took it as a bad thing and maybe committed suicide. But he didn't. He created more things. He created Pixar and he created, a bunch of other things that ended up being adapted and bought and sold and I think Disney owns Pixar now
Hmm.
and but then he was invited back to Apple. And
Hmm.
then he said, well, I want my legacy to be this. And he started telling people about his I guess he had pancreatic cancer.
Yeah.
And he started enlightening people. This is what we need to do. Yes, we have all this technology, but going forward, we have to, educate people better. And you look around at all these people that maybe, for me, it's Walt Disney. I love the fact that he created uh, an empire,
Hmm.
you know, from just a few short movies early on. He knew the power of creating content and how to monetize that
Yeah.
content to be something bigger. And so he died in 1966, but his empire has grown exponentially to the point where, for me, it was every time I go to Disney World, it is a master class in learning. People, oh, Rob, it's just rides, it's just popcorn, it's just no, so much more. And when I started thinking about, you know, after I wrote Legacy, I thought, well, what is there next? How can I showcase a company that not only emulates my idea of legacy, but also teaches people about marketing subconsciously.
Mhm.
And it was Walt Disney World,
Yeah.
and there is no company out there that does what they do in the manner they do it. And so you walk in a park And you might ask yourself, why are the trash cans spaced the way they are? Why is, this person doing what they do? There's systems in place, but, you know, it's all geared to get your client to keep coming back time and time and time and time again, spending more money.
Hmm.
I'm prime example. I go there once or twice a year, spend a
Yeah.
lot of money.
Yeah.
But, a lot of people come out of there and they'll say, well, Rob, it's too expensive. It's this. Look, you're always going to have somebody complaining about your service. Get rid of them. Or figure out how to make them happy about it. And we as marketers, I think, forget. We think, okay, I'm just going to continue to use this piece over and over and over. You have to adapt your marketing
Hmm.
for the client to make sure that they're always happy about your service and they keep coming back. But if they're going to be a problem client, get rid of them. And I think that's
Yeah.
really hard for people because they say,
It
"Oh,
is.
Rob, this lady is dangling $1,000 in front of me, and if I just go there, look, my philosophy is the cheaper the client, the more hassles involved, and that doesn't reflect on you know how much they're paying you. They could give you $50 and you'd be happy. They could give you $1,000, but the problem is that the cheap mentality of clients can create a hassle in your business. And they'll say, well, Rob, I'm giving you this amount of money. You should be bending over backwards to clean that shadow on the carpet that won't go away. Okay, I'm going to adjust your curtains. Shadow's gone. Yeah, but there's unreasonable clients
Yes.
that'll suck the passion right out of you. And you have to learn, say, ma'am, I can't do business with you. I'm walking away. And to a lot of people, that's the hardest thing to do. And if you look at Disney, they've raised their prices to a point where those clients that give the most hassle or demand the most don't go back. So, it's it is psychological, but
Mhm.
it's necessary to run a business that is prosperous, successful, financially and emotionally. As entrepreneurs, we're on this roller coaster of emotions every
Yeah.
single day, trying to figure out where the next client is coming from. But if you have things in place, systems in place that are attracting the right clients, rejecting the wrong clients, then your business will prosper.
Rob, I greatly appreciate you coming on this month's episode, talking about your journey that led you from cleaning industry to a successful career in marketing and now in media and 55 books and counting, and sharing your success with us and our listeners today. We greatly appreciate that.
Thank you.
Rob, you have a great following on LinkedIn. I follow you. Is that the best place where people can interact with you on social media? How can they get a hold of you if they've listened to this conversation and they want to reach out for your services, or they just have some inquiring questions?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn, they can find me on Facebook. Um, and those are the two places I frequent the most. And you know, you don't need to be everywhere. You don't need to be omnipresent. You don't need to be on every single social media channel because it's time consuming.
It is.
Pick one or two that you're good at and just stay there and learn to build your audience there. Um, they can go to my website, anspachmedia.com, and /, if you go to /books, you'll see all the books that I've helped produce. But there's a couple of them there that are free downloads. If you want to get into podcasting, I have a podcasting book that's free download. Yeah, I used to sell it. It's still available on Amazon. You could buy it if you want, but free download. Take advantage of it. Um, there's a couple other ones as well. Or you know, go to getrobsbooks.com. It takes you to my Amazon channel. You can buy my fabulous books. I appreciate that. Um, the latest, not to put a plug on it, but the latest is Marketing the Magic, all about Walt Disney World and how to you know make your business so that people want to keep coming back. But pick up my book Legacy, and even if you subscribe to my newsletter, you will get a mini guide, a 12-page mini guide on legacy. It's a shortened version of the bigger book,
Mhm.
and it's free. Again, we go back to the free room of carpet cleaning. Give
Right.
you something for free if you
Yeah.
like it. Maybe you'll continue. But there is a power. There is a power in giving someone something for free. And whether you use it and never use, never call me again, that's fine. But I want you to understand that the information that I put out there is for you to learn, to be a better entrepreneur, to discover podcasting. I have books on copywriting, books on social media, books on sarcasm if you're into that. But here's the thing. The Rob versus books, the very first one you'll like. It's called Rob versus the Scammers. And that first book was prompted because I was constantly dealing with phone scammers wasting my time. And today I still get 71 on average calls a day from scammers.
Oh my God.
And it didn't help answering them, but you can get mad at these scammers, slam the phone down. All I did was I played along, stretched out the conversation. I wasted their time. And then I took these conversations and put them in a book. And they're funny because I throw out all kinds of wasteful things. And sometimes they curse me out. Um, Here's the thing is that I know everybody's out there going, Rob, how do you write all these books? You were just a carpet cleaner. Look, if I can change my stars, you can change yours and you can write books. And it doesn't have to be on carpet cleaning. That's how a book on social media is the thing that got me out of carpet cleaning, you know. And so if you wanted to write a book on your adventures in carpet cleaning, fine, but make it funny, make it enjoyable, make it something that your clients would want to read about,
Right.
but they don't want to read their own story in your book. So,
Right. Rob, appreciate your time, your knowledge, your passion. Um, there's so much great information in this conversation. Thank you again.
enjoyed it.
That will complete this month's edition of the Business of Clean. Be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Also, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and your comments. From everyone at Janitorial Manager, our guest, Rob Anspach, I'm Tim Clagg saying so long until next time.